Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait a few minutes. People are just trickling in and give them just a minute or so to join. And then we'll get started with introduction. Okay, aloha. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to AgCurious for our upcoming Waimānalo cohort. Hopefully you're in the right place. I know we're running a few different ones of these right in the next few weeks, but this one is focused on the Waimānalo site. So yes, hopefully you're in the right place. We're going to go a slow start with introductions so people who are joining just a few minutes late won't miss out on too much. But again, welcome, and we're going to get started. So just a little bit about how the webinar is going to run tonight. So probably everyone has been on Zoom by now, but this is set up as a webinar. So we're not going to see anyone's videos except for our Go Farm staff and our alumni panel who's joining us. And so that's the way we'll be speaking to you, and then you can interact with us primarily through the Q&A box. This session is being recorded, and so a link to this recording will be emailed to you tomorrow in case you miss anything or have any technical difficulties or want to rewatch anything. You're going to get that link in your email tomorrow along with the application link. So the Q&A window, you'll see that either at the top or bottom of your screen, that little box with the Q. You can click on that and type any question you might have for us, the team or the panelists. We'll either reply back to you via text, or we may save that question and try to answer it live so that everyone else can hear the answer and we can discuss it a little bit more too. Either way is fine, but we are going to cover a lot of material tonight. If you have a burning question as we're going through, feel free to write that, or you can wait. We'll have a Q&A time dedicated at the end. If you have the option to send anonymously if you want, that's totally fine. So getting started, actually, first I want to just do introductions of the team. My name is Laura Ediger. I'm co-director of Go Farm Hawaii. I'm based here on Oahu. The Waimānalo site is the one I get to go to the most. We also have Lily here on our team. She's going to introduce herself a little bit later, and then I'll pass it to Rachel to introduce herself.
Aloha, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm cruising through our attendees list and I see some familiar names, so that's exciting. My name is Rachel Ladrig. I was born and raised in Michigan. I'm Anishinaabe Ojibwa, Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Native Americans, and I've been here in Hawaii for about 10 years now, farming on the leeward side of Oahu, and now lucky enough to be the farm coach for the Waimānalo site on the windward side of Oahu. So you'll be hearing more from me later on in the presentation.
Thanks, Rachel. And you'll see we have a couple of other names. That's our alumni panel. So people who have just recently graduated or are in our incubator program, they're going to share their experience, but we're going to do that towards the end. So they can just stay, keep their video off for now, and then we'll invite them to join later and introduce themselves. So the first thing I'd like to do here, since we don't get to see your faces, I'd like to get a little bit of a sense of who's here with us tonight. So I'm going to put a poll question up. It's going to pop up for you. You're going to get a chance to answer, and then we're going to see what everybody says, and we'll share the results so that you also can see a little bit of who is on the call tonight. So I have a couple of questions. I'm going to start with this one, which is asking, how would you describe your knowledge of farming in Hawaii? So maybe this is none, but you'd love to learn, which is probably why you're here. Maybe you've already done some gardening. Maybe you've done some work on farms and got some of that good work and dirt under your fingernails. Maybe you have some land already and trying to figure out what you're going to do with it. Maybe you already have quite a bit of experience, but you're still up for learning more. So I'll give just a couple more seconds for people to put in their responses, and then we'll share the results. Okay, ending the poll. So interesting, we have a lot of people with experience. So half of people have done some gardening. A lot of people have also done some work on farms. Not many people coming in with having land and trying to figure out what they're doing. And then, a little bit of no experience yet and a little bit of already having some experience. So This is a great way to see that, the people who make up our cohorts really have a range of backgrounds and experience. Some people already have spent time out in the fields and kind of have a sense of what to do with different crops and maybe even worked on a farm. Some people have just grown plants and food in their backyard garden and maybe haven't done anything. But that's totally fine. And that's the kind of group that will come through. And so we're really teaching everything from, starting from scratch. We're going to teach you a lot of different things, and really just at what level you're at, depending on what level you're at, you're going to get different things out of the program, but it's really designed to meet a lot of different people where they're at. Okay, one more question, which is, how much do you know about Go Farm Hawaii? Maybe this is nothing, in which case you're going to learn a lot tonight. Maybe you know a little bit, but you have plenty of questions, which is great. Hopefully we'll answer them all. Maybe you think you get it, but you may just learn a few more things. Maybe you already know a lot, but you're still happy to be here listening tonight. I'll give about 5 more seconds. Okay, share the results. Great. So again, a lot of people in the middle here. So a lot of people who know a little bit, but still have a bunch of questions or think they get it, which is great. Again, we're going to share a lot of information, especially about the program and how things work. But whatever questions you have, feel free to bring them. We'll spend that time at the end and make sure we answer everything that you're looking to know about the program and about how this next cohort in Waimānalo is also going to work. So thanks for participating. It's good to see who's here. And this picture is, a bunch of people, different kinds of people that come through our program. So again, I just get a sense there's working with different kinds of crops and different kinds of situations, but of course, a lot of happy faces. Okay, so why Go Farm Hawaii? Why do we exist? The reason we were founded is because a broad coalition of people saw that Hawaii needs more local food. And in order to have more local food, we need more farmers. This is really coming from, we're seeing this demand and seeing this signal from a lot of different areas. So we're seeing it from policymakers. We see this from people consistently, Governor Ige, if we remember him, he made a goal of doubling local food production by 2030. And so that's become a more specific goal with people looking at, how much local food can we be getting into schools? Can we getting into state agencies? But these kinds of goals reflect that people really see a strong interest and need to try to be producing more food here locally for our own communities. In addition to policymakers, we also see this demand really coming from consumers. And probably over the last 5-10 years, you may have also noticed that there's more farmers markets, that they're getting busier. There's more vendors there. There's a lot more food hubs, which are places that purchase from farmers and then resell either directly to consumers or to restaurants or other customers. CSA is a phrase that we use a lot. It stands for community supported agriculture, but it really has become a shorthand for being able to purchase a vegetable box, a subscription. And we see more people doing that. You sign up every week, you get a bag of fresh veggies. You may or may not know what's going to be in that bag every week. We also see restaurants. If you go to restaurants, and you may see on their menus that they're naming specific farms that they're buying their produce from, whether it's their greens or their tomatoes. They're wanting to make that link and show the people who are eating at the restaurant where they're getting their food from the local farmer, making that connection. We also see school institutions. As I said, both the Department of Education and private schools are also looking for how they can do more purchasing food from local farmers and getting that on students' plates. Another area where we see the need for more food and more farmers is that the average age of farmers in Hawaii is 60 now. Well, in one sense, that's kind of a good thing because it means you can keep farming for a long time. We have a lot of older farmers. It also reflects that, it may not be the occupation of choice for a lot of people as they're coming out of high school, they're coming out of college, they're deciding on their career path. And so we see that there's a need for, younger people to be getting involved in the industry and to start to take over and be learning from our kupuna and learning and picking up these techniques and really keeping the farms that exist going and continuing to start new farms as well. We also consistently hear from farmers that they need more workers. They need more people with some skills and experience to make their farms really productive and thrive. And finally, we exist because we hear this from people like you. We see people signing up. We see people coming to us and saying that they want to farm, whether it's because they want to reconnect to the land, because they want to be producing food for themselves and their community. for whatever reason, they're seeing this as a path that they want to take, and there's not an easy way to get involved and if you don't have the skills and the experience. So we really started this program and designed it for people who are wanting to get involved in farming as a career, but maybe aren't sure how to get started. So we really want this to be a pathway for you to actually move into farming, whether it's as an employee or as actually owning your own farm. Okay, so what is Go Farm Hawaii? We are beginning a farmer training program. We're under the UH College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resilience, which you may have heard referred to as CTAR. Our mission is to develop and support commercial farmers and those who want to work in agriculture. So this is a key point here. You know, we support all kinds of farmers, but really when we're looking for people to come through this program, we're focused on people who want to do it commercially. And that doesn't mean, you know, we're only focused on, you know, monocrops or, you know, producing food and revenues above all else. It just means that we want to be working to support people who are going to be producing food to go out into the community and be part of the food supply and increasing our food security in Hawaii. So it's wonderful if you're focused on, you know, producing for your own family and at the subsistence level, that's wonderful. But our focus is really on getting people to start farm businesses and be producing enough food that they're selling into the market. We were founded in 2012, so we've been around a while. We have over 60 groups of students, 60 cohorts that have now graduated across the state. So we have over 600 alumni, which is an amazing network and resource to be connected to. And we have 5 program sites on 4 islands. So we have 2 on Oahu. So there's hopefully, you know, you're in the right place. We actually have an AgCurious next week that is for our site based out of Waialua at Kamananui. And then we have a site at Waimānalo. So these are 2 Oahu sites. We also have sites on Kauai, on Maui, and on Hawaii Island. The right side of this gives you just a snapshot of what the different phases of the program are, and we'll go through this in much more detail, but you can see how the flow works. So we start with AgCurious, which is where you are tonight. The webinar, we kind of introduce you to the program and how everything works, and make sure you have a sense of what you're getting into before you sign up. From here, you get to apply to go to Ag Exposure, which is 5 weeks. If you finish that, when you finish that course and decide if you want to apply to Ag Excel, that's a 7-month phase. And then there's an opportunity, if you want to apply to go into our Ag Incubator program. And that's where you have your own farm site and you work to develop your farm business, but still on our land. In addition to these phases, our team also provides agribusiness consulting and support. This is something we provide to any farm business or agriculture business or food business across the state as part of our service under CTAR extension. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. That ag business team really supports our training program, but also provides services outside of that. So if you ever find yourself wanting business support, you can connect with us and we'll help you. And it outlines the costs on the right side, but we'll talk about that more as well. Okay, I want to make sure to recognize that we're not in this alone. We have a lot of partners. These partners may be people who host our farm training sites. They may be people who we do joint programming with. They may be people who help come and teach in our program. So Cooperative Extension, which is listed at the top, there's extension agents, and they come and teach classes for us, and they come and visit us on farm site, and we connect them with students so that they have that ongoing resource even as they move through the program and beyond. And on the right side, we couldn't do this without funders. This ranges really from the federal level, the state level, the county level, private sources. And this really, I'd like to just illustrate that there are a lot of people that want this work to continue. There are a lot of people out there wanting new farmers to grow and thrive and succeed. And so part of what we do through this program is also, not just continue on our own, but connect you to these places, these sources of capital so that you too can get the resources you need to make your farm business work. We'll talk about this in more detail, but our training is a combination of online and in person, typically online during the week and then in person on weekends. And we really teach 2 streams throughout. One is the production side. So as you might expect from a farmer training program, we're going to teach you a lot about crops. We're going to teach you how to plan your crops, how to grow, how to harvest, how to process. You'll probably encounter a lot of vegetables you've never seen before, definitely never grown before. That's part of the process. We want you to get a sense of all these things. But in the meantime, you can't keep farming unless you're earning money to support yourself with your livelihood. So we're also going to teach you about the business side. How do you set up a business? How do you operate it? How do you market your product? How do you track what you're doing? How do you analyze things and how do you grow? In addition to the training, a lot of what we do is connect you to others. So this is the networking piece. You're going to be connected to your cohort. You're going to be connected to other alumni. You're going to connect to different people on our team and a lot of those partners that I showed on the last slide. And additionally, a lot of those are resources. So connecting you to the experts, the extension agents, people who might potentially help fund your farm, and potential customers. That's a lot of what we do, is introducing you, connecting you, and really helping you connect into that social system that's going to help you succeed. Just a little snapshot of a few people who have gone through our program and what they're doing. Everyone who comes through the program has a different vision, a different path, a different direction that they're headed. And so this just gives you an idea. These represent kind of different people from different islands, but they all have pretty active social media platforms. So kind of pick them so you can also go and explore and see what they're up to and get a better sense that way. We do teach you and encourage you to use social media, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to be present in that way, which is totally fine. But just these ones, you can see a little bit more about what they're up to. So on the left, the upper left side, you'll see Owl and Bee Farm. So they came through the program. Cameron came through the program. They now have a farm in North Shore of Kauai. And they do a lot of amazing value-added products, which means they're taking the crops from their farm and they're adding value to it by making dressings, by making pesto. Super creative, very cute, and they sell those primarily at farmers markets. On the top right-hand side, FarmLink, if you haven't heard of it, check it out on its website. Rob Barreca came through our program. One of the things he saw was that why are all these farmers all individually going to sell to restaurants? Couldn't we have someone in between that collects all that food and does the deliveries and does the sales? So that's how he started FarmLink. And now it's a large company that still buys from farmers and gets that produce to customers, to restaurants. And so plays that middleman role, but has really grown to, again, support that demand that consumers have for buying local food conveniently. On the bottom right is Kaiviki Food Forest. They're on Hawaii Islands. They have kind of an agroforestry approach. They're doing a lot with orchard crops and making a really diverse agroforestry system. And on the bottom left, if you come through the program, I'm sure you will meet Ahiki Acres. This is Haley and Matt McKinnon. They have a plot at our Waimānalo research station, and they're also setting up a farm in Waimānalo, have a lot of great experience and tips to share, and are kind of, a cornerstone of our little community there. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Rachel to get into a bunch more detail about how the program works through the different phases.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Okay, so hopefully we'll jump into explaining a little bit more about how the program works, and you guys will have some clarity around hopefully what you came here for tonight about the programming itself and all the functionality. So the very first phase is today, technically, I suppose, but you come to the AgCurious, you hear from some of the alumni, you get an overview, and you figure out if it's right for you. And then the second thing, or phase one, really the important part of the journey, the first step is to apply for ag exposure. And so, you'll get all the information of when that application is due, but this cohort, this will be cohort 17, and we're going to start with our Wednesday Zoom classes on September 3rd. And so this is a 5-week hybrid program, and that hybrid piece meaning that every Wednesday we're on Zoom together from 5:30 to 7:30, and then every Saturday we are in person taking field days to different farm operations. So featuring different farms that are operating at different scales with different goals, growing different crops. And so you guys get an understanding, really, or just a sort of like 5,000-foot view of just a small amount of farms operating here on the island already. And so those virtual classrooms, we do some assignments. In Ag Exposure, I teach folks the basics and very foundational information about crop planning, and some like very basic record keeping skills. And that Saturday specifically also is for you to kind of figure out if this is right for you. Can you handle waking up early and making it to a farm site and working in the hot heat throughout 8 to 2 p.m., 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Are you interested in what these people are doing? Does it look like a life you want to lead? And so we usually take around 20 to 25 applicants in that phase. And those are, kind of all kinds of people. I've had folks who, are doing other parts of or working in other parts of the food system, not only specifically for farming, but we can take a little bit wider range of people in this phase of the program with the intention that we're going to, get a very particular, whittle it down to the candidates who are quite serious about the next phase. So that is $50 for that phase. That is the fee for the ag exposure phase of the program. So the next step would be phase 2, which is kind of oh, excuse me. I just probably said all this. Okay. And then, so really this is kind of saying a little bit more in depth about what I just said here. So we're teaching crop planning. We want you guys to walk away with some of those basic understandings and maybe tools that if you don't go on to ag exposure, that you are able to at least take something with you that is a better understanding of the food system here and farms operating here, or how to be involved if you want to go work for one of these farms. If you know already that maybe farm business isn't for you, you make it all the way through ag exposure, but you're connected to another farmer, you can work with them. Then also you can learn a little bit about our CSA planning, so community supported agriculture. That is what we teach. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the Ag Excel phase. Yeah, and then you can decide and figure out if it's a correct move for you and if you can sacrifice all those Saturdays moving forward. So this is the kind of meat and potatoes I always end up saying, but this is the really important part of our programming, phase 2, the Ag Excel programming. And if you made it through Ag Exposure, you're totally committed and you think that you really want to have a farm business, you would apply to this phase. So our phase 2, that's that 7-month, also hybrid part of the course. Every Wednesday, we're going to stay on Zoom, 5:30 to 7:30. And then Saturdays, we are on site at the Waimānalo Research Station. That is where our class site is and where you will get a plot of land during this part of the program. And we are there for 7 months together, really, learning hands-on every day together and making sure that you guys are kind of going step by step through the program in that phase. This is really important to note, and I just want you guys to think deeply as I kind of communicate the rest of this information in Ag Excel. This is where you will learn all of these very foundational skills, but you have to attend. Attendance is mandatory. The time commitment that we suggest and share with folks is that you should expect to put in around 20 hours a week in addition to the class time. And so, not everyone has to do that. Not everyone wants to do that. But I would suggest that you at least carve that out, like at least 20 hours a week to maintain the farm, to put good effort into the assignments that we have you folks do in the Ag Excel portion, and to really give it your all. You will absolutely get out what you put in this course. And so if you take it seriously and you show up to the farm and you want to connect with me or Sabina, our farm site assistant, or any of the other incubators, putting in that extra time is going to really get you ahead. We have the weekly readings and assignments and quizzes. So the weekly readings is, it's no small feat. It is in some sense like in an academic setting. You are expected to do these readings and you're going to excel and also integrate a lot more information if you actually put in effort to read these readings. Every Wednesday, for instance, we'll be having an irrigation conversation from one of our extension agents, and you're going to learn about irrigation, and then there's going to be weekly readings. And ideally that following Saturday on the farm, we will go over irrigation together. So, we've set this all up purposefully, and we really appreciate when folks put in the good effort to do the assignments and, get through a lot of this stuff. This is an adult learning environment, so that's a really important note to make as well. Our coaches, myself, like I'm not going to be chasing people around. I'm going to remind you and nudge you gently, but if I see that someone's not really wanting to put in a lot of effort, for one, I'm going to be disappointed because, you have a spot in this program. And ideally you're coming to us because you want to learn how to have a farm business. But I'm not going to run around and make you do anything. You will either graduate or you won't, and I think we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we ask for a lot of respect and for people to really gauge their own sort of like bandwidth and their own capacity and do that honestly in the program. So the fee for this portion, for the AgExcel portion, is $500 for an individual, and it's also then $700 for a partnership. So that's two people coming together, ideally that are already together, not two people meeting in ag exposure or two people coupling up relatively recently. These would be a partnership that you want to be in business together for the long haul. So there are scholarships available, and we do have veterans and need-based, assistance for folks. So if you need that, that'll be in the application phase where you can communicate that. And in this stage of the program, I accept up to 12 people. So we have a particular field site, and I can fit 12 students in that portion. And it is competitive, based on who's applying. We usually always have to cut people in this phase of the program. And so, I would like to say this first and foremost, if that happens, if you're someone that gets cut for any particular reason when we come into the AgExcel phase, please don't take that personally, and please maybe also just try again. You have to try again. We take people based on what they fill out in their application and how communicative they are and clear they are with their goals and purpose for doing this program. Next slide here. Okay, so our expectations and takeaways. So like I just said, you get your own parcel of land. So this is kind of like you get into AgExcel, you're going to, be learning with me how to test soil, how to analyze it, amend it, and make these kinds of decisions, how to set up a bed and use the BCS to do that and make a raised bed, and how to set up irrigation, et cetera, et cetera. And so we do that in the first probably like 6 to 8 weeks of the program, is really like focused. It's a lot of students always say it's like a fire hose being shot at them. It's really, really intense for the first 2 to 2.5 months, really. And that is where you're going to learn all of these foundational skills to then start to implement this information or execute this information in your own farm plot. So you get a 1/16 of an acre on the farm, which is 25 feet by 100 feet. And every single one of you gets that. There's 6 people on one side of the field, 6 people on the other side of the field. And you are expected to maintain that, and then also, keep healthy crops, do all of this. A lot of it is on your own. You are going to be working your plot on your own time outside of class time. And so kind of the purpose of that, you get this big crop list, and we start to learn about crop planning in that ag exposure phase. But the sort of like capstone project or point, one large point of the AgExcel program is that you learn how to have a CSA and run a CSA model. So that's community supported agriculture. If you don't really know or aren't that familiar with this, I would suggest after this presentation that you Google and make some searches and see, the history of this model. But everyone will be expected to, get 8 customers and market their CSA, and then also sell and distribute and do all of the processing and legwork of that 8-week CSA. And you'll be charging $25. So each one of you are expected to earn at least $1,600 in the AgExcel phase of the program. And, kind of the whole point is we build up to our CSA. We teach the CSA model. Laura said it earlier. So you have this large sort of, wide net of different crops that you can be in relationship and learn about. it's not expected that you grow every one of these moving along if you choose to farm after that as well, hopefully. But we want to introduce you to a lot of different things. And then with CSA models specifically, to manage all of that through those 8 weeks, you kind of want a different, diverse offering of your crops. And so that is one reason we teach it. We also teach it because it is a little difficult to manage. You have to make things presentable. You have to know how to market them. You have to communicate to the customers on the other side, maybe what to do with these crops. Some people don't know what the heck to do with fennel or okra. And so you're expected to do a little bit more legwork, at least on my end. I usually think it works better for people if they do more legwork and communicate with their CSA customers and go the extra mile to, really make your product stand out. You develop that business management plan also, or excuse me, practice that business management and develop a business plan during the Ag Excel phase of the program as well. So that business management comes in for CSA. I encourage people right off the bat, kind of when we get going in our cohorts, to think about like, what is your story? What would your farm name be? Why? Where does that come from? Who are you? What's going to separate you from another farmer? So you learn those skills. And then, as Laura said also earlier, we have the other side of the program, which is the business team. And so those guys, Eric, Kyle, Alyssa, those guys are teaching you about marketing, about cost of production, about record keeping, and how to just really organize yourself and give you foundational information to be an entrepreneur. And then, one of the main kind of like whole really shiny parts of the program, I would say as well, is that you're introduced to really everybody that you should need to know to be well resourced. We introduce you to all of the extension agents. We introduce you to a lot of faculty members at the university, our entomologists and all these kinds of folks. We introduce you to people in the food system who have access to resources, financial resources or infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. You really get all of this in one shot. And so it's a really great reason to be in the program as well, to network and move forward that way. And so the classes, we talked a little bit about some of these, but it goes into depth in more depth here. The production side, those Wednesday classes, which you can expect to, walk away with or refresh maybe some of your knowledge in. The production side, we go through a lot of like plant anatomy, physiology, soil nutrient management, plant health management, all of these kinds of things down the line here, including food safety and post-harvest and handling. So the idea is we're learning about this stuff in our Zoom classes and going on a more academic, in-depth understanding. And then Saturday, we're working hands-on and applying this knowledge on site, in the field, and on the farm. On the left there, businesses. So those are some of the skills that you can expect to also walk away with here. A lot of people are really interested in the marketing and branding, and hopefully a lot of you are also interested in organizing yourself, record keeping, how to develop a business plan. At the very end of Ag Excel, everyone is also expected to have a business plan presentation. Even if you don't think you're going to go on to have a farm business, or if you decided towards the end, like this maybe isn't for you for some reason, you are still expected to do a business plan. And part of that is to also help you develop skill to present and also talk about who you are, what your farm represents, and all of these kinds of things. So hopefully this is enticing to you, and these look like things that you're really eager to learn. I think I'm a little stalled out. Okay, here we go. And then, so hopefully you guys are all itching to know, what the heck are we going to grow? And so I give you a lot of different vegetables. And again, I explained a little bit of why. It is to widen your net in understanding and knowledge, and hopefully you grow some things that you will newly be interested in and obsessed with. So a lot of carrots, beets, all kinds of different roots, hakurei turnips. You can read the list on here. Tomatoes. We grow all of the tomatoes in this greenhouse. Lots of different flowers and beneficials. We'll do a cauliflower trial during the cohort. And then you also see a lot of other plants besides what you'll be growing in your field through your seed list or your crop list. So you'll see a lot of different things that maybe, inspire you to your farm layout and design layout one day. So we have a lot of different buffer zones, windbreak and native buffer zones, Gliricidia, Ko, Kamani, Ali'i. We also have a lot of fruit trees, so tons and tons of bananas. We have some citrus on the site, a lot of ulu trees. We have a few different varieties of ulu and many more. So this is kind of just like a wide range of things. We also do grow a lot of the culturally significant crops, kalo, olena, ko, and tea. And so you'll see those around the farm too. And I try to keep those going to perpetuate like seed and plant material for folks to take as well. But those are not what you're going to be growing in the AgExcel portion. You will be specifically focused on short-term vegetable crops in the AgExcel fields, but you will be able to get experience with the other ones. I also do a lot of like cut flowers, and during this cohort, we're hopefully going to be installing a lay flower field to also offer plant material to people moving forward and just kind of keep that as a repository. And then asterisk there, no, we do not do livestock. We don't have animals on site. That is because we are on the university site and we have some restrictions specifically to our site, but B, also it's a lot more management to do animals. And so you will not have that experience at the Waimānalo site. Okay, and then what practices do we teach? I think this is important, and a lot of people usually want to know this. I think generally and broadly speaking, we focus on regenerative farming and agriculture, and then also focus and only use organic practices. So we focus on soil health, trying to keep low or minimal tilling. We try to do cover crops on the fields when they're not either in production or when they're resting, or just when they need to be, have a different interruption of crop cycles in there. We also rotate crops. So I usually don't do the same type of crop in the field over and the same field over and over and over and over again. We interrupt that with a cover crop or another type of crop to interrupt pest and disease pressure. We also use mulching in different ways, and then organic practices. So we are not OMRI approved. We are not organic certified, or excuse me, we're not organic certified, but we use only OMRI approved products. And so we also use composting. You'll get some access to that, worm beds, all these kinds of things. And then we're also using soil amendments and trying to keep those, teaching you about local sourcing there with our bone meal that comes from Campbell Industrial Park. And then also connecting you and helping you understand who to go to, what companies to go to for those amendments. So you'll learn a lot about that as well. Okay, so I'm going to take a really quick drink. You've made it to through AgExcel, and you did all your assignments, and you made sure that you did a wonderful business plan. You, came to all the classes. You did really well. You put your all your effort into, and then you decide, okay, I think I really want to start my own farm now. What do I do? And so each Go Farm site, we have kind of like land in our, and I think about it as our like portfolios, but these are the lands that we have access to through having the sites on these specific spaces. And so we do have land on the university site there at the research station. And the next phase you would do is to apply to be an ag incubator. And so this is not necessary. This is the next step after AgExcel, should you choose to go on to do it. And so this phase of the program is really, it's a lot more independent. This is a 1 to 3 year phase, and it kind of depends on the person and where they're at. But ideally, we are opening up this to select graduates of AgExcel. Again, it's going to be the top of the class and people who did really well, and showed that they can do it, that they want to do it. They went the extra mile. They probably got extra CSA members and hustled their vegetables and not just let it go to waste in the field. But they're applying, and they attach a business plan to their application for Ag Incubator. So we start with the kind of rental of space, the land. It starts with 1/8 of an acre. And so that's double what you are growing on in AgExcel. And so we start that, and that rate is at $75 a month. So very low rate. And then you can increase your plot size over time after your first 6-month evaluation. So every 6 months in the incubator phase, you are going to be meeting with the business team and with the coach, and we're going to comb through all your expenses, all your crop plan, all of these kinds of things, and help you identify any holes, and also like give you kudos where you deserve it and help you to stay on track to be a healthy and viable business and entrepreneur. And so if you turn in something at that 6-month check-in period, we want to, if you want to increase your plot size, we want to see that you have a clear and well thought out crop plan, that you have a way to manage this extra space, and that you have clearly been doing that through field evaluations that we do every other month, and to make sure that you are on the road to be able to manage the rest of this space. I just think that's an important piece. Okay, so in Ag Incubator, I kind of always say that people are also like, failing forward. The idea is not that you're like right out of the gate the best farmer in Ag Incubator. Hopefully you are learning about what you want to grow. You're dialing down your crops, you're figuring out your systems, you're figuring out your markets. And you're building all of this experience, hopefully, to move on to your next phase, whether that's your own farm, or excuse me, your own land, or another type of situation that you have in terms of another land lease down the line. One of the best things about being in the Ag Incubator program is that you have each other. There's other incubators to bounce ideas off of. We have Pohanas frequently every month, and then making sure you have access to the tractor, you don't pay for water, you have infrastructure built for you, which is just like, these are the massive things that prevent beginner farmers from entering into the market seriously. A refrigerator and, wash station and all these kinds of things. And so we provide that for all of you and ask that, in that incubator phase, you also care for those things and treat them as they are. They're helping you be in business. We also have the tractors and all these kinds of things. So if you got through AgExcel and you're saying, okay, like I definitely want to do this, but hold on, I need to pause for a moment and I don't know, go on a spirit walk for a moment and think about it, or gather your resources, you can apply for a gap year. And so that's also something to think about and keep in mind. And we'll say this multiple times as well, but you would have 1 year off to further your education and hopefully be farming with someone else on their farm, or doing something that's going to enrich your skill set, that you will be able to move into having your own farm business more fluidly after that year is up. So that's a little bit about Ag Incubator. And I hope you're asking yourselves already right now, is this a good fit for you? So I think it's really important to say, I'll probably say it so many different ways during Ag Exposure and AgExcel, but you really have to be a self-motivated human to be in this course. And so am I going over? Okay, sorry. I'm like trying to look at my slides. I'm like, is this Lily's? You really need to be a self-motivated person. You need an entrepreneur in general, in my opinion, has a lot of drive within. Like, you are not going to be told what to do. I'm not going to give you, direction on your own business. That has to come from within you. And you need to be gritty. You need to be willing to be knocked down and go through weather events and go through sort of failures in infrastructure and be able to dust yourself off without falling apart, and getting back on the saddle. You need to be capable really and comfortable working outdoors and handling the weather conditions, dressing wisely, taking care of yourself, knowing your limitations, and also like really checking in about what it means to work through the seasons outside all the time and have your monetary income reliant on those weather events. Um, you know, does it align for you in general how we run the program? You get to this phase with Ag Incubator and you have this farm plot, but it's not necessarily only yours. You are sharing this. It's all community focused. You're going to have to share with a lot of people. You're going to have to, move in community and communicate effectively and kindly. And so, thinking about all the rules and kind of like asks and expectations that are attached with this program, please think deeply if that's for you as well. And then finally, the commitment. So be very realistic about this part. You can kind of get away with some of it in Ag Exposure, but in Ag Excel, you're going to need to be committed. We ask that you're all in, and 7 months is a long time. And to give up every single Saturday, if you have a family or even a partner, I'm not, like, you need to be very communicative and have a solid support system that's going to understand what goal you're working towards. And you really need to understand what goal you're working towards so that you can show up in a way that's clearly stating that you're committed and that you are not going to be burnt out or resentful about your own choice. So please think about all of that. And if it's a good fit for you, then hopefully we'll hear from you in Ag Exposure. And now I think it's Lily's, right?
I'm going to talk about this one,
Okay.
and then it'll be Lily. Okay, so we did talk about ag business. I just want to share a little bit more about what that looks like. So the ag business team, as I mentioned, is involved in a couple of different ways. One is that they teach all the business classes. So you're going to see their faces on about 10 different classes during the period. They're going to teach business planning. They're going to teach production planning. There's a lot of words in here that maybe you haven't heard before: cost of production, cash flow projection. Maybe you're already familiar if you have more of a business background. You're going to learn all these things. You're going to learn the terminology. We're going to give you tools. You're going to understand what the purpose is and how to use these things to really help your business grow. In addition, the business team provides consulting support. So like I said, any ag business, anyone, you don't have to be in the program to access this. And this is, do you have a startup business? Are you looking at establishing it? Are you looking at your business strategy and planning and wanting to think about the markets and wanting to think about like what might work here for a farm business in Hawaii? Maybe you need help with a logo. Maybe you need help with your marketing strategy and identifying customers. Maybe you want to develop a product, like I talked about, a value-added product or otherwise. Maybe you're looking at land options and you want to assess what's a good fit for what you need. All of these things, there's somebody on our business team that can help with that. So on our website, there's a place where you can go. You just look at Ag Business Services. There's a client form. Just tell us about yourself. Tell us what you're looking for, and we'll get back to you and set up a time to meet and talk about what you're looking for. And again, this is something that supports the program, and we definitely do extensive business team engagement as you move through the program, giving you advice, helping you refine your thinking, especially in incubator, but beyond as a graduate or outside of the program. And we'll also connect you with other organizations. There are other farmer support organizations out there. Maybe you need to write a grant. Maybe you're trying to solve a particular pest problem. We can help connect you to those other people. Okay, I'm excited to introduce Lily. She's here. Lily, could you introduce yourself and tell everybody how to apply?
Hi everyone, I'm Lily. I'm the program manager for the statewide training program. I'm based in Haleiwa, and I work to support the coaches and students across the state. So I'll be sharing more about how to apply. So for this Ag Exposure cohort, by tomorrow morning, you'll receive a follow-up email from Constant Contact, and it'll have a link to the recording of this webinar in case you missed it or want to refer back to it. You'll also get a link to our frequently asked questions page, and that's a great resource to refer to as well. And then of course, you'll get a link to the application, which is going to be on a platform called Typeform. Applications will be due by Monday, August 4th at noon, and you'll be notified of your status by the end of the day on Friday, August 15th. So the goal for these applications is for us to really get a sense of who you are, your background and experience, and your plans to apply what you learn throughout the program. Applications can be competitive, so please try and give thoughtful responses and as much detail as you can that can help us understand if you'll be a good fit for our program and how participating fits into your life, as well as how it would support your long-term goals. Just a note about type form. So as you're filling it out, your responses will be saved in your browser for up to 15 days, so you can return to that same browser and finish your application at a later time if needed. But even if it's the same computer, it has to be the same browser. So just a note about that. And we'll look forward to reviewing your applications soon.
Thanks, Lily. If you're in the program, you'll get a lot of emails from Lily. Okay, quick note on partnership. Rachel mentioned this is a little bit before. We just want to make sure when you're thinking about this, you don't think, oh, I'll ask a random friend to do this with me. So because I don't quite have enough time and then we can share the burden. That's not how the program works, and it won't be good for you or the other person. This is really set up for people who are going to farm together. Maybe you're friends, but you're going to have a farm business together. Maybe you're partners in life and you're going to have a farm business together. Otherwise, don't do this with a partner. You want to really learn all these skills yourself if you're going to be the one farming and you're not going to have that partner there with you. If that partner comes in and they do all of a certain crop, or they're the ones running the tractor, and you don't learn those skills, then you're the one missing out. So it's a really good idea if you're going to be farming individually to do this as an individual. But if you do have a partner and you're planning to farm together, this is also a great time to do it together and work out some of the kinks of that. How do you communicate? How do you share the burdens? How do you get through disagreements? And how do you complement each other in this kind of context? So if you do have a partnership like that, that you're going to utilize in the farming context moving forward, go ahead and apply as a partner. That totally makes sense. If you're going to do that, when you submit the application, we're going to ask, are you applying as an individual or as a partner? And then you're going to tell us you are a partner and write the partner's name, but you each separately need to submit your own application so that we can see all the information about each of you. Another thing to consider is that if you're coming in through partnership in AgExcel, you need to continue as a partnership in Ag Incubator. You cannot come in as a partnership in AgExcel and then only one of you wants to go solo for Ag Incubator. That's not an option because, like I said, we don't know that you necessarily learned all the skills and are able to run the farm business by yourself. If you're coming in as a partnership, you need to both be attending all the classes. So it's not the case that, oh, I'm the partner who's going to come to classes and I'm the other partner who's going to do the field work. No, you're both in this together. If you have someone in your life who can't come to the classes but is going to help you on the farm, that's totally great, but they're not going to be the individual in the program who's responsible for being there and for completing all the work. They're welcome to come and help you outside of class as much as you want, but you are going to be the one in the program. So if you have somebody whose schedule doesn't quite work, but they're going to be actively there with you, that's a good option. One person can apply, the other person can come help. And it is like, in general, it's great for people to have friends and family that can come help. Those people also love to spend the time on the farm, and then they can help you out and you can get used to organizing other people to help you. So it's a win-win all around. Okay. Best time of today is that we're going to now hear from our alumni. So Becca and Juanita, if you could show us your faces, and Rachel's going to lead this section and ask some questions about your experience. Thank you both for coming.
Awesome. Okay, right on. So, welcome Juanita and Becca. Thanks for joining us tonight. So these guys are on our Waimānalo site, both graduated from different cohorts. And so I'll kick us off with a couple of questions, and I'm really just trying to have Juanita and Becca share a little bit about all of our participants about what they've gained in this program, how they found the experience of the program to be, why they chose to pursue this path as having a farm business, what it's been like for real. I would love a little real talk. And then also some of the obstacles, some of the wins, and, as always, kind of thinking about thoughtful suggestions and reflections, and sharing about, thinking about where you were in this phase of the program. So I'll go ahead and start with Juanita. And so could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're currently at in your farm journey, and also, what led you to make this decision?
Yeah. So hi everybody. My name's Juanita. I was a part of the most recent cohort 16. So what got me interested in farming was actually maybe 2 or 3 years ago on TikTok. I got into gardening. It seemed interesting. So I started a little garden in my like side yard. And then once I was able to grow my first tomato, I was kind of hooked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I created something that's able to sustain not only myself, but it's able to sustain other people. And that kind of lit a light bulb. That along with my family. So I'm a descendant of formerly enslaved people on both sides of my family. So the way I see it, my ancestors, every generation has worked in farming. And so it's just something that I can also contribute to. And yeah, so where I'm at now, I am just beginning the very beginning stages of my farm business. Right now, I'm working on clearing out my farm plot so that I can get some weed mat laid down so that I can get infrastructure set up. Doing that along with some of the business sides of it, like registering my business and things like that. And then I do all of that while also balancing a 9 to 5 job. So very, very busy, very hectic right now. But I love it. I love being out on the farm. I'm actually right now waiting for my work schedule to kind of shift back to normal so that I can get back on the farm. I'm like being stuck in an office all day is not normal for me. So yeah, that's just a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Juanita. So Juanita is just starting off in Ag Incubator. And like she said, she's just we did plot assignments last week. So she's got her little space. She's figuring out what she's doing next and making decisions to plan and design her farm. Thanks, Juanita, for sharing a little bit about that. Also, I keep pushing Juanita. She has access to land back on the mainland that's through her family. And I'm like, girl, she had such a green thumb the entire Ag Excel. And she's like, I don't know. But thank you for sharing that. Okay, Becca. So who are you? Tell us about what led you to become a farmer and, what cohort you were and where you're at currently in the programming for Go Farm.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Becca. So, who am I? Why am I here? I don't know. So a lot of things have brought me to this point in my life. I think I was just reflecting recently about how did I actually like become a farmer? And it's just so many little components that I think have led me here. For me, mostly, I think it started with wanting to be like a steward of the earth, doing anything I could to like take care of the earth, whether it was like reducing plastic consumption or just taking care of the environment around me, and always been focused on like the natural world. So I think that's kind of where like my brain space started, and I started volunteering on farms because I wanted to kind of know where my food was coming from, and trying to understand the food system a little bit more. And just kind of as I got my hands dirtier, the more obsessed I got with it, and being able to watch crops go from seeding to harvest to eating was just like a thrilling experience to me. Like we're kind of in control of life in a way, which is, maybe extreme and a little godly, but it's really fun to like watch and experience. And then now having some farm space, I'm kind of like, manipulating it all in whatever positive way that I can. So that's kind of how I got into agriculture. I'm currently in almost my first full year of having my Ag Incubator plot. So I graduated about a year ago from the program last August, or no, sorry, I don't even remember anymore. I'm not going to lie, this last year has been a doozy starting this farm. It has been a beautiful doozy. It's been really fulfilling. I do it full time. So prior to this, I was working as a waitress. And I just, right at the moment of getting my plot, I just cut ties and went all in on farming, which might not have been the financially smart move at the beginning, but it was really necessary for me to make the progress that I have, I believe. And every case is different. Juanita, you're badass working 9 to 5. It's just, and everyone at the site, it's really beautiful to see. Some people have different types of hours for their jobs, full-time jobs, part-time jobs, and everybody's making it work and everybody's growing food. And it's just epic. Like, you can really make it work however you can carve it out for your life. So yeah, I think that answered most of that part.
Yes. Thank you, Becca. I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing, because you were also in food service. You were waitressing, and then you were also working for co-farms. So I think that's also an important note to know that you really came into AgExcel having given energy to Hawaii's food system and working for a farm, to know that this was for you as well. You did that work. Okay, so Juanita, can you share with us about your experience in AgExcel? Sort of like, tell me really what you walked in with, what you thought you would gain or experience, and then what you left with and how that shifted you.
Yeah, so I walked into AgExcel. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was completely different than, I guess, any expectation I had in the best way possible. There were so many things that I personally never thought that I was capable of. Like things like with irrigation, right? Or things like with understanding soil health, right? Before I started AgExcel, if you asked me about soil, I would say all dirt is the same, and it's right, it's just dirt. It's fine. But now I'm like, no, there's a difference between dirt and soil. And I feel like I can nerd out on some random things whenever, like, I'm at the plant store or my mom has a garden and she'll just randomly ask me a question. And I'm like, oh, I actually do know the answer for this. So it's things like that. I think AgExcel gave me a lot of confidence in myself. Yeah, and it was probably the most difficult but most rewarding experience I've ever had. You work really closely with your cohort mates. I would not have been able to survive without the other people in my cohort. Um, and yeah, so it's really nice to be able to go through that experience with other people who are kind of in the same situation as you. You can bounce ideas off of them. And yeah, I'm just very excited and really happy with the people in my cohort that we're still in touch with each other today, but also the ones who we've transitioned into Ag Incubator together. Just built a really nice bond. And I don't think, yeah, like I said, I don't think I could do this without them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Juanita. And then Becca, so tell if you can recall, right? Because you're like, gosh, when was that? Tell me about like what you were hoping to get. Why did you apply to AgExcel? What did you leave with? And, did it give you the tools that you needed to have your farm business today? And then I want you to just chat really quickly about like, what is this pocket of Ag Incubator been like for you? What is that reality check versus the like compared to AgExcel?
Sure. Okay. So the first part of that, so like Rachel had mentioned, I'd been working at Co-Farms, which is a diversified 2.5 acre farm back in Palolo for about 3.5 years. And that's really where I gained most of my inspiration and value behind working in agriculture in Hawaii. And after, 2 years of being there, and you start dreaming when you're out in the field, right? You're like, oh, but if this was my farm, I would maybe want it like this, or I would grow this. And so I had this whole like process of like, I really do actually want to do this for the long run. And I want this to be my profession. So I heard about Go Farm from somebody else that had been working with at Co-Farms. And yeah, I entered the program with like full on hoping that once I graduated, I'd be ready to start my own farm. Like I went in with the expectations that I'm going to learn everything that I need to start my farm. And I truly did. I also feel like I'm still struggling in some ways to run the farm, but I the program really gave me great insight into not only how to grow things. I think I knew a decent amount of that before the program, but I also was humbled and like, oh, actually, I don't know that much once you really get into all of the aspects of what it is to set up a farm with irrigation and protocols for flipping your beds and doing succession crops. So I learned a lot about that, but also just about like treating the farm as a business. I'm just like a doer and get my hands dirty, and I want to be active and physical and connect. And when it came down to really treating the farm as a business, it got a little bit overwhelming. But the program was so supportive. Like at any moment, even now, and I feel like this is probably forevermore, I feel supported. I know who I can reach out to, Rachel, Laura, the business team. Like if I have questions, concerns, like we kind of have a network from here on out. So that feels really nice because the questions are endless and you just, I don't know, just run into new situations and scenarios that you aren't expecting. So, yeah. And currently, the farm's amazing. I sometimes will start talking about the farm and like kind of the stress response, like, oh, the farm, it's a lot of work. Like I'm in the sun all day. It's like, whoa, it's kicking my butt, but in the way that it needs to, like it's flourishing. There is a lot of, weekly and daily things that I have to keep up on, and marketing can get a little bit tough sometimes, but meeting people through Go Farm, working in the food service industry. One thing that is for sure is that there's endless open market as long as you find it. There is such a demand for vegetables. And like once you start networking with people, I mean, you won't be able to keep up practically, but you just need to make those connections to start. And yeah, like if you're worried about that side of it, don't be. You'll figure it out. Everybody is in the need, and we're the hot commodity. Okay, like where everything we're growing, like we are high value. Not we, I shouldn't say we, the crops are, but the work we do, it is of high value. And I think I always knew that, but I didn't fully recognize that until now. I'm marketing stuff. I'm like, okay, like this is actually a good business opportunity. It is what I want to do with my days, and it's also a good business as long as you're ready to put in the work. So yeah, I'm up to a 1/4 acre right now. Maxing out there for a while. It feels good. It feels busy. My boyfriend helps me. Thank God. I could not do a 1/4 acre by myself, truthfully, and keep a balance of like, doing regular human stuff. So I'm very thankful for his help, and everybody's, when you enter the program or if you get into incubator, you just need to set intentions, set a standard, and figure out, what your capacity is and ride with it because you can make it work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becca. Juanita, can you share a little bit about your, like, what did a week look like to you in AgExcel with your day job, and when were you making it out to the farm? What was that work like? Please tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think how I typically scheduled out my week was so I work second shift of the day. So I work from 3 p.m. to 11. So I knew I could make it out during the mornings. So I with balancing that with my work schedule and some of my other cohort mates, we figured out our irrigation situation and our watering schedule, but I was out on the farm 3 days a week, not including class. So I would go out, I think my schedule was Tuesdays, Thursdays, and every other Friday was my like pretty routine schedule of going out. I would kind of try to block off my time too. I would give myself like, okay, I'm gonna do weeding for 2 hours on this time. And in that 2 hours, I need to make sure I can get through these 3 rows. And I would try to keep myself on some kind of schedule. But it was really important for me knowing that I had limited time to go in with a plan. So before I even got to the farm, I knew, okay, these couple of things I have to get done today. And then, as soon as you get out there, I want to walk around and look around and say, like, oh, my carrots are doing so well. But then that's a way I typically got distracted. And I'm like, well, I said I was going to be weeding, and now I don't know, planting something else because I knew it was ready in the nursery. So I would try to give myself a little buffer time for like the fun projects or the things that I would just come across. So I think that for me, that was what worked well. But I know we had people in our cohort who were out there. I felt like they were out there all the time. And I'm like, I don't know how you manage to balance life with just being out here so often. But yeah, for me, it was like, if you know that you have limited time, going in with a plan, I would say would be my number one tip. Not just going in with a plan, but sticking to that plan. Because what you think will take you an hour on the farm typically will probably take you twice as long. Because like I said, you underestimate how long it'll take, you underestimate how long it takes to clean up afterwards. Um, I underestimated how distracted I would get just based off, like I said, you see another crop that's taking off and you want to make sure you document like what you did right, that's this crop is taking off, or you have another crop that all of a sudden is just getting attacked by pests and you want to make sure you document that so that you can try to figure out what's going on. um, but yeah, so I'd say go in with a plan. I think I was at the farm 20 to 25 hours outside of class time. And then with class time, I was one of those people that was like, oh no, I know Rachel says that you won't have time to work in your field during class, but surely we'll have an extra like 10, 15 minutes or like an extra hour. We can just jump in there. No, I would be out at the farm after class probably until like the sun was going down, just trying to get as much done. Um, and I figured I'm already here, so I might as well add this on to the extra part of my day. But yeah, so I would say it definitely is a lot of work. But it's doable. I did it by myself. It's totally possible. You just have to truly go in with a plan.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Juanita. And then Becca, just tell us, we've said really kind things. I know we're running down on time here a little bit, but we've said a lot of good things and positive things about this experience. You guys are really great. Thank you for loving on Go Farm and sharing the positive stuff. But like, what does it really mean to you right now to have a farm business? And what would you like to leave these guys with in terms of like, if this is what they're thinking they want to do now?
That's a loaded question. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you just need to be realistic with yourself. Like as much as I am loving everything that's happening and the progress that's occurring on the farm, it is truly hard work. And if you're prepared to take on like the mental load of planning and documenting and analyzing, because that is a lot of what farming is. Like you need to be very aware of everything going on at all times. And also take on the physical load of every part of farming that is physical, flipping your beds and preparing soil. I mean, we live in a pretty hot climate, especially this time of year. So I've had some days recently where I've in my head did this little whiny voice like, I don't wanna, for the first time since I got the plot, just because it does get a little bit repetitive sometimes. And it's a great thing though. I think what you always have to remind yourself in those tough moments is like, deep down, this work is so meaningful. And that's the driving force for me. I think that's probably the driving force for most people that are working in agriculture is that you're making an impact on so many things. You're taking care of the earth, you're building soil, you're feeding people, you're connecting with community. And you're just like, you're doing the right thing, right? So that is just something that you should always remind yourself, and also be realistic with yourself. Like if you're going to enter this program, like be ready. I think you guys did a great job of like saying that already. Like this is a lot of work. Like it truly is a lot of work. And it is a time for you as a farmer, no matter what your experience is or has been. It's a great place for you to experiment. And I think I said this before, like Go Farm, you open their container when you get there and it's like farmer heaven. Every tool, every product, every pesticide, organic, like everything you'd ever want is in this container and you're like, oh shit, okay, cool. And then you have your little plot and you can just see what tools you like to use without buying them, and what works on what pests without having to buy them. And it's just a great place for you to like figure out what you want to do and what works for you and what works for you want to grow. So yeah, go for it if your heart's in it. If it's not, keep thinking about it. I don't know. Just it's a big undertaking, and I'm excited for anybody that does it, but just be prepared for the best time and the hardest time.
Thank you so much, Becca.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so think about it if you want a farm business, and if you don't, maybe, look into Master Gardeners or any other program that's, going to be helping you grow vegetables or gardens, but maybe not as a business. I'll just say super quickly, guys, that we were going to hear from Calais tonight, one of our other alumni, but he could not join us. He's sick, unfortunately, but I wanted to share that I was hoping to hear from him and have him share with you guys about the journey of learning that he didn't want to have a farm business. He wanted to learn how to grow food. He wanted to offer food for his community. But when it came down to it, he realized through being in the program that actually he didn't want that attached, that business aspect, that entrepreneurial responsibility, and all of that hard work and effort that comes with that. And it really is not for everyone. So think about that too, please be realistic about that portion as best you can and as early as you can. So thank you to our alumni. Thank you so much, Juanita. Thank you, Becca. And I appreciate you guys for taking time out of your evening and from the farm to talk with these up and coming budding farmers. So I'll pass it back to Laura and Lily here.
Thank you. Just want to echo that. Thank you so much, Becca and Juanita, for coming and sharing. It's always great to hear from people who are in it. Okay, just a few things left. Okay, Q&A. So we have a couple of questions, but now is really the chance. If there's something we haven't touched on, something we haven't answered, something that you're wondering about, anything you'd like to ask our panel or us as a team, please, now's the time to click on your Q&A box and then type in your question. So we have a couple questions we can talk about. Lily, do you want to talk about this one? The first one, what criteria does GoFarm consider for acceptance into Ag Exposure and AgExcel?
Sure. So thank you for asking this question. Students that participate in the GoFarm program are investments for us because we want to make sure that they have a high likelihood of becoming successful farmers in Hawaii, and in the long term will have a positive impact on our food system and contribute to our mission, which is creating more local food and local farmers. And so when you apply, we try to garner as best as we can the likelihood of that happening. And so we want to know if your goals, your visions, and expectations are aligned with our mission and our program objectives. And that isn't to say that you need experience to apply to the program, but that passion and that drive and really wanting that long-term goal is really important. And so you asked about education and farming experience specifically. Yes, we do consider those things. And as, like I mentioned, overall compatibility and viability. So for example, like if you plan on learning with GoFarm and then farming somewhere else, that might not be the best fit. We really want to support our students to stay here in Hawaii and support local food here. So if you do have experience and you have more background in farming, that's better. That does support your application, and I think the chances of being successful in the long term, but it's not necessary.
Okay, thanks, Lily. Rachel, did you want to add anything?
Sure. Yeah. I just want to say that you don't need a specific educational background, though. Like, we're not looking for a particular degree or anything like that. So that's, I think, one important note. And also, this is not an accredited program through UH. So you don't have to be enrolled in the UH system and all those kinds of things. Sometimes people are confused about that part. Yeah, everything else Lily spoke to.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Jessica. She says, I don't have a car. Is there typically any carpooling from town on Saturdays during ag exposure?
Sometimes, for sure. I think we definitely, like, Jacqueline had a moped. She had a car accident during Ag Excel. It really is going to depend on your ability to maintain relationship and, organize that for yourself with cohort members. But Go Farm doesn't initiate or do any of that logistics.
Okay, thank you. Also a question, what happens to the plot after Ag Excel?
I put it into cover crop.
So it goes back into the cycle.
Yeah, but you guys are responsible. This is an important note. So everyone is responsible for planning all of their stuff and planting, maintaining, harvesting from, but then you clear it. So the participant clears it. You are expected to either flail mow down or pull all of the large crops, pull all of the irrigation out, and reset it to be ready to be tilled and cover cropped for the interim season in between cohorts. But so it's a full cycle, and I kind of think it's on a little bit of a like spiritual practice in a lot of ways, because you did all of this effort and then you like remove it all. A lot of people donate a lot of the food if there's still food going off, and then also we save a lot of food for our graduation. I usually do a big emu with all of the students that graduate, so a lot of that is like pushed to harvest for graduation, and it's expected to be cleared by a specific date.
Okay, thank you. A couple of practical questions. Rebecca's asking, are students allowed to switch to the North Shore location for Ag Incubator if other stages of the program are completed at the Windward site? A very short answer is no. Can explain, we have a lot of reasoning behind this, but really we want you're learning to farm in a very particular location with a very particular soil and climate and infrastructure of the site and with your cohort. And so we really, we require people that if they're starting in one site, then they need to go through, and if they're going to go into incubator, they're going to stay at that site. So if you think you want to do incubator at the North Shore site, then you should start the program and continue through all of the phases at that site where you want to do incubator. This is one for maybe everybody. Any books or websites you would recommend that helped any of you in your farming journey? Becca or Juanita, do you have any books or websites that helped you?
Yeah. Well, what the heck is it called? Hang on, Juanita, answer.
Okay. For me, I would say The Market Gardener is probably the number one. I would listen to it, like the audiobook version of it, while I was out on the farm. And there's a lot of really practical tips in there. I would say that, and then I also got a lot of books over the summer that were just kind of like African American ways of soil practices. So I'm kind of looking into that and how kind of my just different farming practices that have been passed down. And I know not all of it is as applicable to farming here because it's a totally different climate. But a lot of things like cover cropping and things like that have been discussed, but also kind of treating, I'm reading, I can't even think of the name of this book. I'll find it. But it's about treating the soil as if it is, what was it? It's like treating the soil as if it was your distant relative, and that because you want to give love into the soil so that it can give love back into you, through providing nutrient dense food. Oh my gosh, tongue twister. I will find that book, but yeah, those are kind of some of the things that I've been really into right now. But The Market Gardener for sure has been really helpful.
Thanks, Juanita. What about you, Becca?
Yeah, I definitely second The Market Gardener. That's like the Bible. But I grabbed this one, How to Grow More Vegetables, and pretty much says like on less land with less water than you can ever imagine, which is very applicable to the space that we utilize at Go Farm and Incubator and during the class. So I found that really helpful because I think bio-intensive farming is on small spaces is like can be so productive. But just like a side note, once you enter the class, the resources that are shared on your Google Classroom are like infinite and just well organized. And if you're like looking for a lot of farm related texts. Wait till you get in the class. It's really informative, everything that they include. Also, quick side note, podcasts, because we're all in the field all the time. We can't always be reading books. There is one called Farm Small, Farm Smart, which is pretty good. And can't remember other names right now. I think there's one Carrot something, very informative, and the guy's easy to listen to. So hit the podcasts.
Definitely hit the
Oh.
podcasts.
I found the book that I was
Oh.
talking about. It's called We Are Each Other's Harvests.
Aw, I love this. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I have one. Well, you can't see it with my green. Oh yeah, you can. Teaming with Nutrients. This was one of the first books I ever read when I got introduced and like very obsessed with farming. And so it's the Organic Gardener's Guide to Optimizing Plant Nutrition, and it gives you like a breakdown. Once you understand how to maintain and balance plants, like micro macro organisms, I think that just is helpful. And then we have the Compact Farms. Is it showing?
No,
Because it's
try
green.
Oh, there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Compact
So,
Farms.
yep, Josh Volk, that's a really interesting one. And then Laura, what was that one that center everything around the small space? What was that called? Lean Farm. Lean
Yes.
Farm is also a good book. It's like, doing it in a way that's like, keeping things wise in terms of your layout and the essentials of what you need, yada, yada, yada. But podcasts as well. Oh my gosh, there's so many. So just go down the rabbit hole, folks.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, I can answer this question. How old is the oldest student? Our oldest student to date was 75. I like to say that the range was from 18 to 75, but the average age is sort of early 40s. But really, we have the whole range. We have people that are out of high school, out of college. They're kind of mid-career transition, trying to figure out if they want to get out of the office and into the farms. We have people at retirement age that are like, okay, now I'm finally free. I want to farm with all my spare time. So yeah, we've gone up to 75. I mean, like Rachel said, it helps if you're comfortable working outside and all those kinds of things. But yeah, we do have definitely people in their 60s and 70s. Okay, a couple questions about missing class. So one of them, I'm still in school. I have a conference coming up where I have to travel to the mainland and will need to miss one Saturday during the Ag Exposure program. Could I still apply? And then another one, what if you have a National Guard obligations, which is 1 weekend a month and 2 to 3 weeks once a year? I'll just say, just share this with us in your application. If it's one Saturday during Ag Exposure, it's not a huge deal. If it's a big chunk of time in the key part of Ag Excel, it's going to be more of a problem. And really, again, we're selecting people who it's a good fit, and also we want it to be the right time for you. So if you're missing a big chunk of the program, you can wait and do the next cohort. We'll still be here. We'll be doing this again. Just you want to do it at a time where you can really spend the time and get as much out of it as possible. So that's really our goal. And yeah, that's how we're looking at when we're looking at applications. Okay. Someone asked, would being a university student while going through the program work? Rachel, have you had anybody do that?
Being a university student while going through the program, yeah, I think so. It kind of just depends on your course load and if you can make the Zoom meetings work. But I'm trying to think, I've definitely had to have had people in school.
Yeah, I'm thinking Tiara and Kai.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So then
Kai had just graduated.
Yeah. So yes, I think it's just about being being really realistic with your course load and very communicative about that in the application process too, and trying to get a good roadmap for yourself so you don't burn out on either end of that stick. I don't want you to, sort of like burn school or burn the farm and just kind of be totally like out of whack the whole time. So think deeply.
And we are exploring, we do have some relationship, like if somebody's going to Leeward Community College or somebody's actually going to CTAR, you know, we've been talking more about, is there a way for somebody to be a student and then also be working with us or have this program count as an internship? So we do have, we have had people from either West Oahu or Leeward Community College. They come through and they're able to count doing the program as an internship. So if that's something that might apply to you because you're doing a relevant program and you need those kinds of credits or internship, please reach out and talk to us about whether that might work for you, because we can help with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Teenagers, have any families with teen kids done the program to create a family farm? I'm trying to think about teenagers. Have you had any
I
teenage
had
kids?
April just this past
Oh.
time. April brought her kids out a lot. So just to be super duper clear, the kids aren't allowed during our class time, but they can come out and help you work on the farm after class or when you're doing your plot work on your own time. But yeah, totally. I've definitely had that. And it's been a nice experiment or experience to like witness mom be like, get all of her work done, and then also, or dad, whoever it is, but get all of the work done. And then also like have this rewarding moment in teaching, I guess, like the kids about where this really, what work goes into growing food and what it means to be a farmer. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I've seen at a couple other sites, I've seen people where, yeah, teenagers can do a lot of work if they're properly motivated and want to be doing it. So it can be really helpful in
Directed
the field.
appropriately.
Directed appropriately too. Yeah, so it can be good depending on your teenager. Okay, are there additional expenses incurred for marketing CSA shares, and can the revenue from the shares be used to cover those costs? Rachel.
Okay, yes. So we cover, Go Farm Hawaii covers all costs. This kind of goes back to what Lily had mentioned. When we are doing these applications and reading everything, we want to make sure you're a good fit because we're investing in you. Everything is covered. All of the CSA materials are covered, and we give you the basics, like all of the bags and, stamps to make it a little bit cutie and all these kinds of things. If you want to go above and beyond with, sort of like plastic-free materials or reusable things, some people really like that, but that would be on your own dime. But we give you everything you need to run the CSA. The revenue from the CSA all goes back into the program. So you, as the farmer in your plot, do not keep any of the revenue goal sales that you make. And if you can make more than the 1,600 benchmark, any of that up to $300 can go towards your incubator fee and plot fee for the incubator phase of the program. But everything is coming back to Go Farm to put back into our program. As we said, we're grant funded. It costs around, I think, $11,000 to send one participant through the program. And so everything is asked to be put back in.
Thank you. I see Becca typing an answer to this, but the question is, can you speak to the outlook for small scale farmers in a big farm industry? And how do small scale farmers fit into Hawaii's push to scale up production? Becca, do you want to talk about it?
Okay, yeah, I'll talk about it. It's a really important question and something that I think we talk about a little in class, but currently I'm just gonna like give an example how I've thought about dealing with this. So currently there's a few of us in the Ag Incubator program that are working together to answer this question. The first thing we've come up with is we're starting a farmers market booth together as a group. So we can pull from multiple small farms and create a larger product. In that case, it's like aggregating, and this works in many ways. Like we're going to work together as a group of 4, but then there's also like aggregating from other small farmers to sell at farmers markets. But I do think a really interesting, and we haven't really figured out how to do this yet, is how can we have wholesale accounts from multiple small farmers? Like say there's somebody that needs 500 pounds of carrots a week. No small farmer is going to do that. But if we have so many small farmers that we can network together, how can we bridge that gap to fulfill such an order like that? So I think that question is great. I guess I don't really have an answer to it, but I think if that's something that you're passionate about, that's a really good thing to keep thinking about and working towards answering with some other small farmers, because I think there's a lot of ways to go about it.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think that, I think Hawaii needs all sizes of farmers at this point. Like Becca said, what we see is just there's so much demand that it's out there. And there are some things small farmers can do that big farmers can't. There are certain crops they can grow, there's certain things they can do, there's certain markets they can serve that just aren't fit for big farmers. And so I think there's a niche for everybody at this point, and we don't see any part of the market that's saturated. And so I think there's a ton of opportunity for people at different scales. I know we're kind of at time, so what I want to do is make sure we get through the rest of the slides. If people want to drop off and have their dinners, and we'll stay on and answer the rest of the questions. And I know everybody wants to have dinner. Okay, so just quickly, reviewing or revisiting that if you think it's a good fit, if you listen to all this, you're on board, you think this is, or at least when you want to try for ag exposure. Maybe you're still not sure about ag excel, but at least you want to try ag exposure and get a sense from that. Apply, let us know, tell us again, like look at those answers, give us some thoughtful responses, show us who you are. The application link will be coming out tomorrow, again, via constant contact. So check your email. If you haven't gotten it by the end of the day tomorrow, check all your different folders, but if you haven't got it, please reach out, we'll resend it to you and make sure you get it. Again, there'll be a link to rewatch the video if you want to or need to, and then the link to the application. Maybe this isn't a fit for you right now. You can also follow us on social media, check our website. We have other programming as well. We have other kinds of webinars and workshops on specialty things, on different kinds of things that happen throughout the year. So those are our addresses there. And just want to say, mahalo so much for coming tonight and for your interest and support. It's always, again, affirming and exciting to see this many people that are interested in doing the program, that want to find out more about it. And we look forward to seeing your application. Mahalo to all of you. Here's a little bit more info again about how to reach us and to our sponsors. So feel free to drop off. We will answer any remaining questions, and you will be getting the recording of the webinar and application in your email tomorrow.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody. We do have a question from Christian. Could there be support to discuss which sites best align with long-term farming goals of the individuals who are applying? Yes, this a little bit speaks to Rebecca's question earlier about switching sites or trying to figure out what location. Feel free to reach out, send us an email about what you're thinking about. We can help you think through that. A lot of it, I would say the primary thing is really geography. If there's a certain area that you think you're going to end up farming in that area, it makes most sense to go to the site that's closest to that area. Then you're working with similar soil types, you're getting connected to customers in that community, you're developing your network of people that are working in that area, that are farming in that area already. So I would say that's the main consideration, is thinking, okay, maybe you think you're going to move, or you're really looking at land in one particular area. That would be the primary determinants of which site you should be picking. And right now, these two sites are running on a very similar schedule. So hopefully schedule isn't so much of an issue. But that's the main thing I would be thinking about. But if there's other things you want to talk about or other specific questions you have, please email us and we're happy to respond.
And I owe Christian an email response, so I will also.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions? Please feel free to type them in. Give it a couple more seconds.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we'll let you guys go to have your dinners. Maybe you're eating your dinners already while you're listening to us.
That's the joy of
yeah.
the business. You can't see.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.